is on the gas, my whole crew I help with. I want mine in cash, want it all, I'm selfish. Never gave a fuck, I'm bad, I cannot help this. Caught up in my ways, counting days till I'm fucking out this. Whoa, roll up 20 deep, little homie, build a snap. Like, whoa, put 100 down and put us on the map. Like, whoa, y'all ain't even know the place I had to go. In my soul, lost a part of me, but I won't lose control. On the gas, my whole crew I help with. I want mine in cash, want it all, I'm selfish. Never gave a fuck, I'm bad, I cannot help this. Caught up in my ways, counting days till I'm fucking out this. Whoa, roll up 20 deep, little homie, build a snap. Like, whoa, put 100 down and put us on the map. Like, whoa, y'all ain't even know the place I had to go. In my soul, lost a part of me, but I won't lose control.
Hello guys, hello my friends from Gamer Nation. Here we are again live in another live episode. I know it's been a while. I know I have let you guys down because, again, we had a lot of jobs to take care of, so it's been a very, I would say, pack of busy weeks lately for me as a caster, thanks God. But here we are back again with another live episode of our Gamer Nation, the gaming global podcast that talks to personalities across the globe, in many games, in many roles, of course, to talk about gaming and about our passion for games. And today, I have a very special guest, our very third caster, to join us in Gamer Nation, my friend from England, my dear Nfinity, Brodie Nfinity. How are you doing, man? Thanks for saying yes to us.
Hey mate, how you doing? It feels good to be on a podcast. I said it on Twitter like 2 or 3 times now for the first time in forever. Thank you so much for having me, mate.
Yes, of course, man. It's a pleasure to be with you here today because we have also worked together. For all of you who do not know, we have been having the chance of working together. Me and Brodie, we covered the Snapdragon Mobile Masters that happened in Brazil back in April this year. So I was invited to be, of course, in the English booth. So it was nice to work with Brodie Tan and also Clear Explosion, casting Call of Duty Mobile, of course. So thank you all from my channel as Lanex in YouTube, and also to our friends on Gamer Nation YouTube channel. It's awesome to be back here live again. We're gonna have the chance of, again, talking to Brodie about a lot of things, especially casting, about how he got to be a professional high-level caster. And I want to just say a huge shout out to my friend Solista, who's also with us, in the chat. We also have Crumbs, we have Chikuti, a lot of friends from Twitter mostly having the chance to join us today live. Brodie, I would say, first of all, tell us about your nickname. I was searching about it. It's interesting. You called, like, in the gaming world, Brodie a lion. What is that, man? What does it mean?
What do you mean, what is that? That's my name. What do you mean? Are we going into like the origins of my actual name here, or my game name?
Whatever you prefer. I mean, we could, I don't know, tell us about both.
I mean, my name, my parents chose my name. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, of course.
When I was born, they were like, yeah, we'll name that one Brodie. I was actually named after a family friend, I think. But my gamer tag, it's a really weird one. a lot of people have like very interesting stories around their gamer tag. Shifter's an interesting one if you ever speak to him about it. For me, mine is going to be pretty drab. Actually, I'm going to be disappointing everyone and just saying that literally I just thought it sounded cool. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was just like, you know what, we're going to slash the I off the word Nfinity and we're going to stick that one in there. Yeah, I just thought, yeah, that sounds cool. Although I will say it wasn't the first gamer tag that I had. Everyone has like embarrassing Xbox 360, Xbox Live gamer tags, right? I had like multiple. I think I started out with Brodie 007 because I was a big fan of the James Bond films as a kid.
Nice.
And yeah, there's a lot of ones. Arctic Raptors 99. I don't know what was going on with that one. Yeah, I settled with Nfinity eventually, and I like where I'm at with that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, nice, cool. So it comes from gaming. That's what we want to know. How your passion on gaming began. Mostly, I was gonna ask you anyways about this. So you began like casting. You began like already loving games since the day one. How did it all like begin for you? Was a combined passion on casting and playing, or?
Yeah, so it's a weird one. So if we're gonna like start with like gaming to begin with, right? You know, obviously, you know, I got in video games when I was, I want to say, like, to be fair, it's one of those things where because it happened when I was so young, it's very difficult now to actually remember exactly when it was. It's like it's so long ago now, and I'm 25, which makes me feel so old. But yeah, I like started playing like games on like the PlayStation Portable back in the day and the Xbox 360. My first love for competitive video games, though, I think started out with the early Call of Duty games, or early per se, right? So my first Call of Duty game was Black Ops 1 on the Xbox 360. It was one of the very first Xbox 360 games I got a chance to play. I'll be honest, I was like 11 years old when that game came out, and I have no idea what my parents were doing to let me play that thing. But I'm very glad that they did. I immediately kind of fell in love with the idea of competitive gaming. I first found out what it was actually from the Xbox 360 dashboard. And for a lot of people who don't really know how this worked back in the day, basically with the Xbox 360, if you like loaded up the system, you'd get like a series of advertisements, right, for like various things that were ongoing, be it like game sales, be it like movies that just come out in the store and such. And one of those advertisements was the Modern Warfare 3 Call of Duty XP Finals. I can't remember for the life of me who. I think Optic Gaming ended up winning the event. But I watched that event, and just everything about it was just so awesome. It was so cool. I actually didn't get to interact with Call of Duty Esports again until the following year, when once again they advertised the Call of Duty 2013 World Championships, where Farico Impact came out on top, and that was like super fun. And that was the moment where I just watched everything like Call of Duty Esports from that moment on. In terms of casting, like I think over the years, I think my approach to COD Esports kind of changed quite a bit. So I started out just kind of very casually playing like 8s and scrims just between me and my friends, who kind of had like a very casual enjoyment of what competitive Call of Duty was. This is like advanced warfare, kind of Ghosts time. But as I got into Black Ops 3, I kind of realized pretty quickly that I was not good enough to play the game. I think a lot of people kind of get to that point where it's just like, okay, you realize if you want some kind of involvement in COD Esports, you do need to change your career path. And I was like, yeah, I'm not playing this game. This is not happening. I'm not good enough. I enjoy it, but I'm definitely not good enough to be actually competitive in it. And so the thing I did was, I was just like, one day I just decided, when I died in Search and Destroy, to start commentating over my teammates who were playing obviously in S&D. And, you know, they were like, you know what, actually, you're not that bad at this. Like, you're actually okay. And I was like, oh, thanks, guys. So one of the first things I did after that was like hit up some amateur tournament organizers on Twitter. And yeah, from there on out, it just kind of grew and grew. But that was my first like exposure to commentating Call of Duty Esports, was just casting Twitter tournaments for no money whatsoever.
So it's crazy to see, like, you bother folks, right? Basically, you did what every caster has to do in the beginning. He has to bother folks, bother friends, and game friends especially, to try to have a spot. That's also what I did when I was trying to become a caster back in the day, like 10 years ago, when I casted like League of Legends for the first time. I had to offer myself, you know, and beg for folks, hey, please allow me to be a spectator in the room. And that's how it all began, etc. And finally, some years after, down the road, I found myself into the FPS games, which is lovely. It's like, it's my passion. I have to admit it. Isn't it? I think it's way better than the MOBAs. I love MOBA, folks. Okay, MOBA games as well, but like, give me a break. Like, the FPSs are the best, are awesome. So basically, you began. I want to ask you this because when I saw your, and that's very interesting because you got a curriculum, you got a resume as a caster on the Call of Duty Wiki website, and I envy you for that because I don't have one yet, but I'll get there.
You will one day. One day they'll be like, yeah, this guy needs one now.
I think this guy deserves after like 70 years, 80 years of work. But anyhow, I'm kidding. So you casted stuff like back in 2021 when it comes to CodeM. But before that, I think I saw you on the 2020 World Championship for CodeM as well. So you are still very young. How did you feel like back then? Did you feel like nervous or like, anxious to deliver at all?
Honestly, like, I think the nerves went away pretty quickly for events. Like, I think it's one of those things where you just kind of have to shake it off. Although I will say, when you first get to do like a big event, like you get like a step up, and I've experienced this multiple times in my career where, like the first moment was like going from those Twitter tournaments that I talked about, right, to actually getting to do online leagues, and then going from leagues to, okay, now I'm doing like LAN events. Oh, okay, now these LAN events have a crowd, and you kind of, every single time you make that jump, there is an element of, no matter how prepared you think you are, you're always going to be nervous, right? This is just kind of how these things work, and I just don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't experience those nerves, even if you don't see them. Getting a cast, I think my first COD mobile tournament was in 2021. I got to cast the Latin America regional events, and it did definitely happen out of the blue. Hell yeah, I was super nervous. Like, honestly, it was one of those things where, it not only was it a big tournament for me at the time, at the time I had been casting Call of Duty Challenges, effectively, for those of you guys who don't know what Challenges is, maybe you just follow COD Mobile, it's basically semi-professional Call of Duty esports, like Modern Warfare 3. But yeah, I'd been casting Challenges at the time, and so to kind of jump across to a whole new scene and have to kind of dig deep into something entirely new it was super nerve-wracking. But those nerves, I think, kind of went away almost immediately. And I will give a shout out to Visions, who I was working with at the time. I'd been casting with him in Challenges previously, but he and I worked together for that event, and he made everything super easy. So having a good person to work with on these broadcasts, it kind of just helps those nerves shatter away somewhat.
Yeah, you mentioned Vision. I gotta bring the footage that I prepped of you and Proper Casts bringing it up on Call of Duty Challengers that you're just precisely now mentioning. I think, so I have a guess that Proper Casts and Vision and also Tan, they are your oldest, I would say, partners on casting. Would I be right on this?
So yeah, I mean, I've had a few partners on casting through the years, right? Proper is my current one, so Proper and I do... Okay. Whenever we get to cast Call of Duty Challenges together, that's who we work with. In COD Mobile, we don't technically have duos, which is an aside, by the way, and this is something that if we're ever going to get into what should COD Mobile do better, I really wish we had set duos, because it makes casting just so much better. Like, you can work on a lot as a duo when you're not working with a variety of different people, different casters week in, week out. You'll find that your work as a caster, you're individually and as a duo, gets a lot better. So yeah, to answer the question, Proper is my current caster, and I think I've casted with like tons of other people. Ton, I guess, is the person I'm casting COD Mobile with at the moment, though.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about the couples, about having a stable pair, let's say, in this way, because we usually have this in sports, traditional sports. Yes. Currently, for me, like on CodeM, I have my let's say my stable partner, which is Jigjoy. By the way, she's an awesome commentator, and we have been doing like words and official events for a while, and it totally helps you in the sense of like the person, the tones, where to break it in, when to toss the ball. It's very, very cool. In many agitated days, for example, or occasions, I just relax and okay, so this is CodeM and Portuguese and Jigjoy, so it's easy. I almost don't need to like make a shit ton of effort to like get ready for the shows. Of course, I update myself, but like it's not the same. I would say overwhelming feeling of having to get ready to go live like with someone you don't know. You're totally right about this. And just to make sure also, like Tan, we were talking about Chris Tan,
Yes.
shout out to him. He's gonna come also to Gamer Nation soon. He said yes.
Hey.
I just don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen. So it's gonna be very cool to have him as well. I need to say shout out to Ghost, also with us in the chat, and also Sefia. Sefia is the official commentator for Asphalt Unite, which is a very nice competitive racing game we have out there. Also, it's also a game provided or organized by ESL when it comes to tournaments. So Sefia, thank you for staying with us here today. And she's also bringing up a very nice question to you. How do you deal with your nervousness? Because the pressure of the first tournament is always greater than we can handle. So, yeah, we went by very fast on this matter. Like, I want to know about how did you manage your nerves for, like, the first delivers on your career?
It's kind of difficult, right? Because I think managing nerves is just a really tough thing to do on the whole. I mean, I think generally speaking, I am a very anxious person. Like, if you speak to any of my friends, speak to my girlfriend, like she'll tell you, like, yeah, this guy just constantly anxious about everything, and that definitely is true for work. And to be honest with you, it just dealing with it, I think, is just one of those things that you're just like, look, you've just got to take yourself out for a second of the situation and be like, look, I deserve to be here. You know, you just got to shout the imposter syndrome a little bit and be like, hey, I've definitely worked to get to this point and I'm going to do fine. If I've done well in everything else, then I'm surely going to do okay here. And the best thing I can do for myself in the situation is just to be like, look, you know, at the end of the day, I know I'm going to put the work in. I know I'm going to put the effort in, the prep to make this the best it can possibly be. And as long as I can do that, I can't be disappointed, right? I mean, like, even if the end product isn't what people want, the best thing that I can do in that situation is take away, why is it not what people want, right? It's not an indictment of me in that situation if I know I put the effort in. So yeah, I you know, to go back to the question, I guess it's difficult to say what you should do if you're nervous, other than just don't be, because, and however stupid that sounds, because ultimately, you know, you just have to do the best you can, and you know, there is no real way to not be nervous in the situation. You're gonna be nervous. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. But as long as you know you've tried, you can be content with what you're doing.
I would totally agree, and it's hard to tell how to avoid being nervous because it just comes out. I think anxiety is a normal and understandable feeling of human beings that we all have, especially working and having to make a special deliver, like you're saying, Brodie. But like, I want to ask you about what should we do before the show comes to avoid the nervousness. Maybe that question makes more sense when it comes to like getting ready for the show. Okay. So like on a typical elite casting, how do you get ready? What could you say, you know, that you do to avoid like those pressures?
Yeah, for sure. So it is a matter of preparation for me. Like for me, I make sure that like on the day, I have basically everything ready about an hour or so before the show. So I make sure that an hour before what we call call time, for those of you guys who don't know what call time is, effectively call time is you show up to a show about an hour or two, usually before the show actually begins, so they can get you prepped. For me personally, it's just a case of, look, I need to have everything both on like a notes document, which I have, like I write the notes down like on my PC, and then separately I have a notepad like basically on my desk at all times, and I make sure that I have like sort of notes written down in there as well that I can kind of refer to. It helps just with confidence quite significantly in doing that. So that is probably what I would say I do. And then in terms of just outside the preparation aspect of it, just relaxing on the day of broadcast is a really good idea. Like, obviously get yourself in the game. Obviously, you know, when it comes down to broadcast, you need to be ready with the notes that you prepared and what you're going to say for the teams that are on broadcast. But at the same time, giving yourself time, if you know you're working that night, to play some video games, to watch some television, to read a book, just to relax on the day, it helps tremendously. You know, just not overthinking it. It makes everything a lot better.
You know, you make it sound very easy. For example, I'm terrible at that. I'm terrible at relaxing before a great gig. As a matter of fact, I want to ask you about how well do you sleep before these gigs? Because I'm gonna have to reveal to folks here today that, for example, before the 2020 World Championship, when I was getting ready to cast it, honestly, man, like if I slept like 3 hours in the night before, it was a lot. Like that's all I could do. I was very anxious. It was my first World Championship, so I don't know. Did it ever happen to you, like of not being able to like to sleep at all, or like sleep less than you wanted?
It happens from time to time. I think before I got to do EWC on Warzone, that was a very nerve-wracking experience. Before I flew out to Saudi Arabia for that event was a super nerve-wracking time, so I didn't sleep much the night before, which was not good. I did sleep on the plane, I will say that much.
Nice.
but yeah, that has happened. Yeah, it is definitely a side effect that can happen from time to time. You know, when you just get in your own head, right? Like you're laying there at night and you're like, I just need to sleep. I know I need to sleep, but you can't. Yeah, that does happen from time to time for sure.
Oh yeah, it does happen. Well, I mean, I guess it totally affects all of us as like on-air talents and casters. But I want to move on to the next topic, which I know, my friend Brodie, that you're gonna nail it, because man, there's something that makes me very, very curious about like your work and who you are is the casting styles, right? Because when I was casting with you and Kristan on the Snapdragon Pro Series, on the Snapdragon Mobile Masters, excuse me, like you guys have different styles, even though obviously you guys are like British casters. We could expect always from the British casters, like I would say a more talkative style or less hyped up. But then when you put you both like together, like Kristan is like he looks like the older uncle, and like you're gonna look like the more hyped up guy. Yeah. So I want to ask you about this, because usually I guess most people are used to expecting from the British casters like a more patient style as opposed to like an American hyped up style. So how do you see all this? Because clearly you are a very hyped up guy, and I like this.
Yeah, it's a funny question, right? It's one of those things where this is it's an interesting conversation to have around like expectations of casters for British casters. Whenever Ton and I are on like casting together on COD Mobile, a lot of people I think interpret that casting as relatively slow comparatively to American casting. I think because American casting, I would use the word bombastic to describe it, right? It can be very over the top in certain instances, and I think as British people, we kind of, generally speaking, lean into what we call dry humor, right? Which is just very kind of deadpan, very like, we just try to make people laugh and be very sarcastic in the way in which we cast, which can rub people the wrong way, but at the end of the day, it's who we are. I kind of, it's in a weird sort of towing the line fashion, have kind of gone with a mixture over the years, right? Of just like I've kind of lent into the more Britishness as I casted with Ton and casted with Bryce. But when I cast with American co-casters like Proper, for example, on the North American shows, I'll lean more into, okay, let's be a bit more fun with this, because that's really the dynamic. It would be kind of very weird if Proper was to come in with some fun and I was to, just hit it straight up with like a very, this is not boring, but a much more dry broadcast. So yeah, I definitely change. For me personally, I do have kind of a mixture in between, and if Ton and I are casting together, I am definitely the more fast-paced one of the two of us, to the point where Ton has to sometimes be like, yo, chill, like you're coming in hot to these series. Yeah, it does happen from time to time.
Yeah, it's interesting to see those essentials, those basic elements on the tone of castings, because I would say it's not even related to the person, but it's related to like what you want to deliver. So for example, when we have usually like a slower casting, we tend to think about the creation of like a legitimacy or creation of a drama, right? And like delivering in the right tone and moment before the play happens, and then it's very, very cool to see all that happening. Yeah, regardless of like personal styles, but I could learn a lot from you and from Ton, obviously, on the Snapdragon occasion. I was trying to balance myself between you and him, like when we were like pairing it up. So it was very, very nice experience. And how do you feel like between the Call of Duties? Because what does change for you when it comes to bringing up your style and your way of casting from one COD to the other one? Because we know that all of them have different paces and they are very different usually from each one another. But I would say that Call of Duty Mobile may be the fastest fastest one ever? Like, how do you see that?
So it's a weird one, right? So technically speaking, I would say the fastest COD I've ever casted would be maybe IW, maybe Infinite Warfare. That was a really fast COD because jetpacks would like raise the pace of the game significantly. But yeah, COD Mobile is very particular fast. It's an interesting talking point. So this is something that people don't realize when it comes down to casting. For me, I am like very much a I don't want to say I cast off what we call casting off the kill feed, which is basically just saying fights going down, fights going down, fights going down, stuff like that. You know, like X kills Y, Y kills Z, Z kills X off spawn, that kind of thing. It's very difficult to avoid that in COD Mobile. And, you know, there's kind of, I would say, a scale of pace, right? With you start with, you know, on the left side of the scale with, I don't know, like the slowest COD, like Call of Duty World War II, right? Which was 4 versus 4. You didn't have all the operators, so things were very slow. It was the first boots on the ground COD since jetpacks. So everything was just super duper slow. Then you add like faster elements into the mix. So you're looking at the jetpack CODs. That makes things super faster, but you're still in 4 versus 4, right? So things can kind of spend time building up tension, if you will. You don't have to be so fast of it. And then, you know, you add a 5th person to the mix, like Black Ops 4, for example. Again, things get faster. And then you have operators in there as well. COD Mobile, I know that Black Ops 4 also had operators, but for COD Mobile is definitely the fastest because of the fact that you have 5 versus 5. You have operators into the mix there. You know, the maps, generally speaking, are some of the best designed maps in Call of Duty history. And so they are, generally speaking, the faster paced ones. You're never far from the action. And I will say this about COD Mobile as well. It's a really weird thing. I don't know what is up with COD Mobile spawns, but COD Mobile spawns are so built around the game being fast paced. Like, you will spawn so close to the hard point on hard point, even if you just got wiped. Like, the one that always comes to mind for me is Hacienda on the P3 hard point on fences, where a team will wipe the other team and then the other team will spawn literally just outside the well. Like, they'll get another shot like almost immediately. So yeah, COD Mobile is definitively the fastest COD in my opinion. Infinite Warfare is the only one I think that it comes close to it, and again, it is because of the fact that, you know, you're looking at 5 versus 5, you're looking at operators, and the casting does change significantly for that.
It's so cool to see that, let's say, your appreciation, your feelings about COD EM, about Call of Duty Mobile, they match mine as well, because I really see this game, this COD, as the fastest one, also the craziest one when it comes to covering everything that is happening. And I've been casting this game for the last 5 years. Man, honestly, I would tell you this game has shaped my own casting on gaming, and especially on FPS casting, because I try to combine, you know, the action description, as you said, like reading the Q feed, but also bringing some color commenting. Sometimes it's very complicated to manage these two things, because as soon as you're like, you try to finish your line of thoughts, but then there's action, there's kills, there's operators. So it's kind of crazy. And I'm already glad that they took out the domination mode, because domination was almost impossible to keep track on, because it was very, very fast. Now we have control, which is a little bit more, let's say, tactical than domination. But
well,
would you say that?
Spawns. Not with the spawns in the current state that they are. Jesus, I don't even know, like, what are we doing? Those spawns are wild, dude.
It's crazy, right? Yeah, like so the element of spawn trapping, which, as we know, like, it's when you basically kill the opponent that's coming up to the game again. You're gonna be able to kill him once more, so it's crazy. It's absolutely unfair in a way, but that's just how the sport works, and it is what it is. But Brodie, we're seeing now images of you on the stage casting the Esports World Cup, Warzone, as we said, like a month or so ago. And I want to ask you about this experience, man, because again, you traveled, you took a flight to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So how did it feel for you to be able to go there, like joining the bests of the bests, like on the profession?
Surreal, I think, is the word I would use to describe that experience, right? I mean, it's insane. I will say this much. Actually being out there and seeing like everything that the Esports World Cup was, the way in which the production put everything together, it just is something that, unlike a lot of things I think that anybody will ever experience in esports, right? I mean, you just have this, I went out and did Warzone, right? And the stage, of course, has to be for Battle Royale. So they had the BR stage that was, I believe, recently used this week for Apex Legends. And it's just so awesome to see this very extravagant stage of all the players on it. And it's just, LEDs everywhere, and, the use of VR in there, or AR, excuse me, in there, just so much cool stuff to work with. And then, for us to actually be part of that broadcast and to, have what is one of the most unique stages for an analyst desk I have ever been a part of. I mean, I've never been part of an analyst desk actually in person. I've always been, on the casting desk, but still, it was just so cool, and everything was so high quality. The production was awesome. Getting to meet people who I'd been speaking to online before was awesome. Getting to work with people that I've worked with over the years was awesome as well. It was a really fun experience. I will say it was unique. I will say, and we very briefly discussed this before we got onto the podcast, but
yeah,
for me it was a very unique broadcast because of the fact that I'm not generally speaking Warzone talent. Like, I'm a Modern Warfare 3 caster, I'm a Call of Duty multiplayer caster first and foremost, and obviously Call of Duty Mobile more recently as well. And I am not, nor have I ever been, an analyst. So to be asked to jump on in a role that I'd never done before, in a game that I don't normally do, albeit I knew and I had casted it before, so I could work it. It was a huge challenge, and I like to think I met that challenge quite well.
Nice, that's cool. And what did it change for you on the preparation? Like, did you feel like more pressured by yourself to shift your style of work when it comes to delivering the information, making deeper analysis, or did you just got stuck to whatever you were ready to?
I guess just straight away, right? It's full 100% color, So I assume you've discussed this on the show before, but there is a fundamental difference between casters, right? You've got play-by-play casters, which effectively describe what's happening as it's happening on screen, and color casters, which effectively describe what has just happened and explain why it happened and the way in which it did happen. For me, I am a play-by-play caster primarily. So I sprinkle in color every so often. When I'm working with other play-by-play casters, I do have to stretch into color a little bit as well. For example, when I work with Ton, I would describe myself as the color of our duo, especially in COD Mobile. But when you're doing that, when you're going out there and you're working in 1-3, everything's different because you're constantly describing color moments over and over again. It's almost like fine-tuning your brain to be more analytical than you usually would. And so, that's kind of how I approach it. Was just everything I have to do is I'm saying this from an analytical perspective. Why did, X player push Y? Why was positioning on the map as important as it was? What, the decision that they made, why was that decision made? Just, there was a lot of stuff like that. And it took a little bit, I think, of me getting used to doing that and not so much being in the moment play-by-play caster. But as soon as I worked it out, I was fine.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was challenging, etc. But man, this is what we actually strive for, right? We all as casters, we want to be challenged for the next level. And we were talking before, as you just mentioned, the play-by-play casting versus the color casting, and it is so interesting to see how these two roles are kind of getting mixed up, or the boundaries are getting more complicated to see each day. Because, for example, when it comes to delivering the action, you can always do the description in a more colored way, or you could just be, let's say, a hyped up color commentator, as my own partner Jigjaw usually kind of does. So you can combine these things, and you can push yourself up, and it's very, very nice to be able to talk to you about this and compare views on casting as a whole. And there's also something, Brodie, that I'm sure you're gonna agree on, which was precisely on the Esports World Cup, the fact that we had a lot happening at the same time. So when you talk about Call of Duty Warzone, you talk about many teams at the same time, falling off from the plane and, I don't know, changing their own ranking positions. That's crazy. I mean, it's crazy to get ready and also monitor everything that's already happened before, for example, you begin casting, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and actually the way in which we approached those matches over the course of the 4 days, because it was a 4-day event, did change around the teams, right? So, when we first started off, there was very little information. So, basically, there was a very big difference in the event in EWC, the way in which it was run, because it was run on what we call Resurgence, right? So, it was Resurgence, it was Rebirth Island, but what they colloquially call small map. And usually, Call of Duty Warzone tournaments are run on big map. They're run on Urzikstan. And there's a fundamental difference in those two things. So, big map is effectively you drop in, you die, you go to the gulag, and if you win your 1 versus 1 in the gulag, you get to respawn with your teammates. But if you don't, you got to wait for your teammates to buy yourself back in, and it's significantly slower. Obviously, the map's much bigger. With Resurgence, you've got like a timer. If you die, you've got to wait till that timer runs down. Your teammates have to survive, and then you get to respawn through. Your teammates don't have to immediately buy you back in. And so it's a faster paced game. The map's different. It's a much smaller map, so fights are much more hectic. And because of the fact that teams in Warzone professionally did not play much of Rebirth Island, they did not play much of Resurgence going into the tournament, the commentators, like, the talent did not know anything about what to expect going in, other than here are the favorites, here are like what we expect these guys to play like, but we don't know like where they're going to drop. Like we had no idea where they were going to drop. We had no idea what fights to be expecting on the early game. We had no idea what kind of like the strategies would be from early game to end game to final zone, what those strategies would look like. And so I think the approach that we took over the course of the 4 days changed significantly. And I think it was the third day where I was like, okay, I'm going to ask, I think it was the second day we actually got the zones. I asked specifically if I could get like a snapshot of the map in Codcaster mode as teams were dropping in, so I could work out where teams are dropping. And that changed everything, because as soon as we did that, then we were like, okay, this is no longer anywhere near as hectic as we thought it was going to be, because we now know where teams are going to be dropping and what fights they're having to take off the start of the game. And that makes everything a lot more easy now for us to understand, okay, we're expecting all of these fights. If those fights don't happen, why have they not happened? It made everything a lot more, a lot easier to break down, is what I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that also you guys had this resource, because from the perspective of us who, for example, me and some other friends like who worked remotely on Portuguese stream, we were indeed like very based, as you said, very much based on the facts and on the killing itself, because that's what we had to work with. But indeed, like having the positionings of the drop-offs would add a layer of analysis, and surely would allow us to see the patterns and the standards of each team. But again, it goes from our talent. I would say it depends a lot on how we can use well the information that we have, right, and how well we can improve when we are on air. That's what changes the quality of deliveries when it comes to casting. And I have been facing, of course you have faced that many times. From our perspective here on the, let's say, on the Brazilian stream, I can say that our casting, at least my casting, had to be more of a like how can I say, a reporting caster, talking and of course play by play in the plays itself, but like also delivering the positionings, the rankings, and letting folks know which team is out already, which one's gonna get back to live. So yeah, it was very interesting, a very nice experience on this Esports World Cup, basically. And we're gonna have also a lot more coming up in August. We are already in August, so let's see how things are gonna come up for the next round of competitions. And Brodie, when it comes to looking at other games, I want to know from you, like, is there any game that you like to play, for example, but you have not had the chance of casting, that you want to cast yet as a pro-caster?
I'm going to say the one that everyone's going to try to get into at the moment, which is probably X-Defiant. Everyone and their nan is trying to get an X-Defiant, let me tell you. Because it's one of those new esports that everyone's trying to get into. It's an opportunity to go pro, to get more money. But I do genuinely want to cast that game. It's a really good game. I haven't had a chance to play it recently because kind of in season is the word I would use. If I'm in the middle of the season and I'm actually working in events like I am right now, I kind of switch to that game that I play just because like I need to be in the mindset to play that game. Like, for example, when I was casting the Esports World Cup, when I got the Warzone job, that week in which I was given, the notification that, hey, you're going to be casting this event, you need to come out between then and actually the flight itself, I was just playing Warzone, like all the time. Like I dropped all of the Modern Warfare 3 that I was playing, was just solely playing Warzone, and for the rest of the season, all I've been playing is Modern Warfare 3. So I haven't had the chance to play much X-Defiant recently, but that is a game that is so fun, and I would definitely want to cast it if I could.
Definitely. That's also something I want to do myself. I was checking on socials how the game is evolving, and man, honestly, it seems to be very fast-paced and very interesting. I was trying to play as well to to get to know more about the elements of the game, and surely it's gonna be cool to see whenever they balance, right? Because I have a feeling that they have not yet stopped to balance the items and balance the special abilities to a point where I don't know, the skill gaps or the skill edges are gonna get like totally fair when it comes to new and older players. But it's surely a very interesting game that combines a lot of whatever we have already seen in other games. So cool, nice. X-Defiant is definitely the pick. I would say it's the moment of the game right now, right?
Yes.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was gonna move out to I would say a broader perspective on casting, and ask you if you wanna cast any traditional sports, or if you ever had the chance of casting like stuff out of the gaming realm, of course.
It's funny because I was actually having a conversation with my flatmate about this today, and I was saying that I don't understand. I could not be a sports commentator. I do not understand how sports commentators do what they do, because it's so damn slow. Like
it is.
It's like so. Obviously, I assume that the one of the primary sports that you watch is soccer, right, or football.
Yeah.
And just listening to football commentators just not talk for like 30 to 40 seconds, I can't shut my mouth for that long. Like that's crazy. That's crazy talk. It's so weird. I'm not generally a sports person. I will say that much. Yeah, anyone who's seen me in person, I mean, you guys see me on broadcast all the time. You can see like the 5 extra chins that I've got. You can probably tell I'm not a sports person. But yeah, I'm not a sports person, so I don't think there's any sports I particularly would enjoy commentating. So yeah, I'm gonna say I'm gonna stick to esports for now. When you have Ton will give you a very different answer. That guy is sporty as shit.
Yes, I'm sure, because I'm on your page, because I don't think I would adapt well to some sports that definitely are slower, or that require the silence, right? The silence becomes like essentially like a key part of the work of these casters, and we know, for example, sports such as like tennis or other ones, man, they are like really, compared to gaming, of course, they're mad slow, and they use the silence indeed, and it's very cool to see some changes on that as well. I have seen indeed a Brazilian caster casting tennis in a very more, how can I say, a way more like interactive way, and speaking more and bringing more color comments. But surely it's like a more, I would say it's a more technical sport when it comes to the comments, because you have to really allow the technical guy to speak more or during more time than the play-by-play itself, right? Not only tennis, but I would say some sports that we have seen on the Olympics. I don't know if you agree with that. Especially, for example, gymnastics. You mostly see the technical or the color commentator like saying things more than the play-by-play guy.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, I've watched a little bit of the Olympics. The UK coverage of the Olympics is kind of trash. It's kind of a big thing at the moment, where it's like the BBC, which is the regular broadcasting service that has all of the Olympics on it, doesn't actually have that good coverage this time around, so I haven't actually been able to catch up with much of it. But the stuff that I have, yeah, like it's always very analytical. I think it's one of those things where it's a big difference between sports and esports broadcasting, in that in sports commentary, it is just all, you only really say something if you have something of interest to say. Whereas in esports, it's kind of like everyone feels like they kind of have to talk 24/7, if you know what I mean. Like I certainly feel awkward if my co-casters stop talking and then I don't say anything for like 10 seconds. I mean, that's obviously really bad for the broadcast. So, there is a very fundamental difference between the two, for sure.
Yes, it's true. It's cool to compare, of course, like in a healthy way, those differences, and know where we are and why we are where we are. For example, I have been a gaming caster for many years, and I don't know. Of course, I want to have chances of like diversifying, but let's see how that's gonna happen, how that's gonna play out. for us. I want to ask our friends in the chats if they have any additional questions as we begin to steer our ship into the end here. Brodie, I gotta ask you, if you were not a caster, what would you be? Would you be like a Codium, like a Call of Duty player? I don't know about that. Would you be? I'll be honest here.
You know, I probably would be doing something in politics. I don't know what that would be. Yeah, so I actually have a politics degree, which is not something a lot of people know about me. But yeah, I went to university and I did politics and international relations. So I have a degree in politics. And I would probably be doing something in that. I don't know what I would be doing, but probably something politics related, yeah.
You know, that's quite a coincidence because I also have a major in international affairs. So
nice.
Isn't that crazy? Like we never talked about it. And indeed, like on the side of gaming, I also work with international stuff. So guys, it's possible to combine careers. But good to know that you went for college, you tried to be like a serious guy, and then you ended up like working.
Well, to be honest, you know what's actually funny is because I started casting before I went to university, and my internet at home was awful. Like it was abysmal. Oh. And so I kind of, you know, it was one of those things where you're 18 years old and you're just like, what do I do with my life? Like, I have no idea here. And certainly at the time, I did not know that esports was going to be a career. I certainly wanted it to be a career. I did not know that it was going to be a career. So I went to university on the basis of, you know, I wanted to do something interesting. I didn't actually know that I wanted to do something in politics. I just had an interest in politics and I wanted to go do a degree in it and just, you know, get that kind of university experience, if you will. And then B, I wanted good internet. Like there was no good internet at home. So I just, you know, I went to university, which is hilarious reason to go to university, by the way. I went to university to get good internet. And it helped because I did my job at university while I was working. You know, I kind of grew as a caster through the 3 years I spent at uni. So yeah, good job. Thanks for the internet, uni.
Yeah, it totally shaped you in many other ways that you're not able to see back then. That's usually what happens to us in college, as we know. But do you actually like these days like see something related to politics? Like, do you see the news? Do you like have any kind of take on that or no?
Oh mate, all the time. I'm quite proud of myself for shutting up as much as I do in regard to politics, because you know, I'll have conversations with my family and I'll just be like, oh, like why, like, you know, everyone has like disagreements on politics with their family or their friends, and it's just best to not say something. But I'm a very like I would describe myself as a very proactive person, and you know, everyone's got that member of their family that pushes the wrong buttons, right? That says something that I'm like, you just sit there like, how have you just said what you just said? So yeah, I definitely get involved in those conversations significantly too often.
I mean, I know how that goes because like usually I have to practice my patience and my non-reaction kind of style on some family and friends conversations. So I get you. And indeed, how can I say? In my case, for example, I went for international affairs because of language. I'm a language lover, so I was okay. So international affairs is gonna be offering me this background. But then after, like, I did a very good major and all. Like, I love my area, but after that, and then when I saw, when I looked at the market itself, right? Like, am I gonna get a job after all this effort? I regret a little bit. I should have gone to journalism, you know, like from day one,
regrets,
right? Do you ever think about it or felt this way? Like, should I have gone to sports straight away? Or it's easy to look from now to the past, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely have those moments where I'm just like, okay, so, you know, I did politics at university. If I'm totally honest, I put myself in student debt, which in the UK is not that big of a deal. Like, you just kind of have student debt, and like it goes away after 30 years, so it doesn't actually make that much of a difference. So it's just like a tax kind of thing. But I do sometimes think about the fact that, like, okay, I garnered student debt for no real reason. I have this degree now, which is just totally useless, and I'm not ever going to really use it. And so I do kind of wish that I did still do the university degree, but did something a little bit different, something that would be more helpful in esports. And yeah, definitely either journalism, game development is something that I've wanted to try to get into. I have no idea where I'd start though, even like learning that kind of thing, or, you know, just media related, like some kind of idea that would, some kind of like degree that would get me into production, because I do have an interest in esports production. So yeah, definitely if I had to choose a different degree, that would be the path I would take today.
Nice, cool. Guys, so I see some questions here from the chat. I appreciate you all for joining us and helping us with these questions. Sefia, I gotta move to her because she's asking, does playing the game make difference when narrating or casting? What do you feel like?
Okay, so this is a conversation that a lot of people, I've seen comments in the chat in the past that are like, casters very clearly haven't played the game. In COD Mobile in particular, so it is case by case, COD Mobile is one of those ones where you can very easily get away with not playing the game proactively. You do not, I'll be totally honest in saying I am not a proactive Call of Duty Mobile player. I keep up with meta, I keep up with game updates, and I do that via YouTube channels. Bobby is a really good YouTube channel, actually, ironically, for that. That's the best thing you can do. You don't need to play the game. However, the only reason I have that exception regarding Call of Duty Mobile is because the vast majority of the maps and the vast majority of the weapons and the vast majority of the operators are operators, maps, weapons lifted from previous Call of Duty games. So I know how they play naturally. And so it's very easy. I know the back of my hand what to expect in regards to raid. For the most part, the spawns can be relatively similar, and so reading spawns and reading map control is the same, to the point where I have a huge gripe. I have one particular gripe, and I've mentioned it on broadcast so much that I hate the way teams play raid control. It grinds my gears so badly that teams cannot play map control and raid control and defense correctly, but that's a me problem. But yeah, because of the fact that I've casted Call of Duty for as long as I have, and I know these maps like the back of my hand, other than the ones where obviously you do have to put the effort in to learn them, like Tunisia, for example, right, or Kurahana, where they are COD Mobile exclusive or previously Call of Duty Online maps. I know the maps. It's just not a necessity, I think, for COD Mobile. But if I hadn't been a Modern Warfare 3 caster, yeah, you do need to play the game generally. I wouldn't recommend somebody going to try cast Modern Warfare 3 or casting Warzone without having played some Modern Warfare 3 or Warzone.
That's totally true, because all the Call of Duties, they are somehow connected, and there's a lot of elements that repeat themselves, as you said. So there's not a lot, excuse me, of a challenge when it comes to keeping yourself updated. Once you know one of the cards, you're gonna get to know the other ones and just make adjustments. So that's how it goes. And well, that basically sums up and also responds to the question that Ace Gamers brought to the chat. He was asking why most CODM casters are not pro players. We just said that, again, the game itself is kind of repetitive, and it's an easy, good going game, let's say it this way, right, Brodie, to cast. It's a very easy, I would say, sports to cast as a whole. You can choose whatever path you want to take, right, when you cast. When we cast, we can go for more dense analysis or just actionful.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, if I could, I'll take that question in a different direction, because I think that they're asking about why aren't COD Mobile casters ex-pro players. I assume. I don't know if Ace is still here or not, and whether he can clarify what he means by that question. But I will say, if that's the question being asked, if it's why are the casters who are competing not pro players from the game, or the casters that are on the broadcast, sorry, not pro players from the game, it's because casting is a very unique skill set. I'll be honest, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here, or your trumpet, right? But so casting, a lot of people don't realize this, and I have a very good anecdote for this. A lot of people don't realize actually how difficult casting is. Again, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here, or any of our trumpets. We're all good at what we do. But casting is actually more difficult than one imagines it to be, because there's a lot of things you don't take into account. To the point where I actually got the chance to bring on a pro player or ex-pro player back in, I want to say 2022, I think it was, onto a broadcast as a color caster. I wanted to bring him in basically to talk about the players, talk about his experience with these maps, talk about experience with the game. And he was really good on the broadcast. But after the broadcast was done, he said, you know what? I had no idea how difficult this was. And props to you guys for doing it. It's very rare to see pro players having the skill set to cast. That's what I would say. So that is, I think, what the question was asking about. Why aren't pro players? Why don't they become casters? That's the answer to that question.
Oh yeah, that's a nice approach to the question, because indeed, as you said, like they may be good in the game, but like communicating about the game requires a bunch of abilities, as we know, and yes, especially because okay, they can be fast, for example, giving the callouts inside of the matches, but like changing the tones and doing everything we do live, it's kind of more complicated to some people, of course. Some of them, though, they manage to, of course, transition well. So as we have been seeing in a lot of games all over these years. Well, we want to say thank you all for being with us here today. Was a very nice episode. I'm gonna really give a shout out to everybody who was live here with us. This was a comeback indeed after some good weeks without a stream here today on Gamer Nation podcast. So Brodie, I want to thank you so much, man, for saying yes. We had to change the date one day, but it's okay. It is what it is. We're here. It was a very fun and nice conversation, and I hope to see you again in new, competitions as a nice caster that you are. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And you will see me soon, because I'll be casting this week, COD Mobile. I got the North American Challenges Finals to cast, so very excited to see Chorus Esports in that competition.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Yeah. It's gonna be very cool. Yeah, indeed, to be learning with you and from you, and of course be able to watch the regions, and especially NA. So thank you, Brodie. Thanks guys for being with us, and of course make sure to check our contents on the socials. We're gonna be posting some of the best moments of this conversation. Tomorrow we're gonna have another very nice live episode with Jesus Can Save You. Again, a Korean player, so let's see what he says. And, well, have a good rest, and thanks, Brodie.